Yeah. So guys, we'll be starting our syllabus with the Oracle SQL roadmap. As I have mentioned in the demo session, we'll be starting our syllabus with the Oracle SQL. So why do we start with this Oracle SQL? So people, here we are to learn a course for this ETL testing. What is ETL testing? It is database testing. We are performing testing activities on a database. That means directly or indirectly, we are going to communicate with the database. If we are going to communicate with a database, we need to learn a language that a database can understand. See people, here we have a people from a different regions. I have a people across the globe. When I have a people across the globe, I'm choosing the international language which all the people can understand. So I'm not choosing any regional language because there is a chance only few people can understand, a few people may not understand. So that is the reason in order to communicate with you, I have chosen my language of communication as an English. So similarly, here we are communicating with a database. When we are communicating with a database, we need to learn a language what a database can understand. So the next question that will be arising is, so does database understand simple English like us? Absolutely no, guys. Database will not understand a simple English like us. So we need to learn a language that a database will understand. See guys, database will be understanding a language called Oracle, sorry, and will be understanding a language called SQL. So we'll be learning that SQL on a Oracle database. So in this Oracle database, we ETL testers will be spending 80% of our time in writing the queries only. That is why I'm starting my syllabus with the Oracle SQL. See, we need to give more concentration on a point where the number of queries will be more. So our ETL testing, more weightage is there for SQL. So guys, in this SQL, what are we going to discuss? We are going to discuss introduction to SQL, and then we'll learn data retrieval techniques, and then data definition language commands, data manipulation language commands, built-in functions, aggregate data aggregation functions, constraints, table joins, set operators, and a pseudo columns, subqueries, transaction control language, views, backup table, case statement, index, start procedure, etc. So guys, these are the things that we are going to cover as a part of Oracle SQL. Yeah. So now we'll see introduction to SQL. Under introduction to SQL, we'll be start dealing introduction to SQL, and then we'll understand DBMS versus RDBMS, and then we'll go for a sub languages of SQL. See guys, this SQL is a language, so in which we'll be learning queries. So, and we are going to write that queries in a database. So if you need to write your queries, you need to install this particular software. So there would be a live installation session for this software. And after that, we'll be dealing with what are the data types that are present in a Oracle. And apart from that, we'll be discussing operators present in Oracle. So these are the things that we are going to discuss as a part of introduction to SQL. So people, now we'll start with introduction to SQL database. In this introduction to SQL database, we'll learn what does SQL stands for and who has developed it. So people, simply SQL, it stands for Structured Query Language. It is a language of a database. That means database will be understanding this particular SQL. By using this SQL, we can store data, manipulate data, and retrieve a data that is present in a database. Using SQL, guys, we can store a data, or we can make modifications in a data, and we can retrieve a data. So these are all the options that are possible with the help of SQL database. And then who has developed it? It was developed in 1970 by a person named called Dr. Edgar F. Codd. He is the person who used to work for IBM. He is the one who proposed a language for all the databases. So databases, they are not using our simple English. So he is the person who established a basic idea of creating a language. So we call this person as a father of a relational database. Apart from a Oracle database, we have some other databases which use this language SQL. So they are MySQL, MS SQL Server, MS Access, Oracle, Sybase, etc. So these are the common databases that will be using SQL. So guys, all these databases, in order to communicate them, we can use a language called SQL. So this is about SQL. So here I have said a person called Dr. Edgar F. Scott, he has developed a model for a relational databases. So now let me explain you what is a relational database. To explain a relational database, first we need to understand what is database management. After that, we need to go for relational database management. So we'll understand DBMS and RDBMS. So guys, here DBMS, RDBMS, it stands for Relational Database Management System, and DBMS, it is based, DBMS stands for Database Management System. So people, if we have mentioned RDBMS means there we have data in the form of tables, and normal database means there we have data in the form of files. If a data is present in the form of file, that we call as a DBMS. If a data is present in the form of table, then we call it as a relational database management system. So guys, DBMS, it is a basic model which has been developed, which has been used to define, create and maintain a database. So to maintain any database, we need to have some management system. So a basic model was developed called as DBMS, which is used to define, create and maintain a database. So guys, as is this is a basic model, it will be supporting some basic features only. So whereas RDBMS, it is an advanced version of a database. So by taking what are the drawbacks of DBMS into consideration, advanced model was developed that we call as an RDBMS. In DBMS data, it is stored in the form of flat files where there is no relationship between data. So guys, I have said if we are saying DBMS means that data is stored in the form of files. As if data is stored in the form of files, then there would not be no relationship between data. But in DBMS, the data it is stored in the form of tables. As it is stored in the form of tables, they are related to each other. So if a data is present in a table, they are related to each other. If a data is present in a file, they are not related to each other. And guys, DBMS, it supports only a single user. That means only one user can use at a time. Whereas RDBMS, it supports multiple users. So multiple users can access database at the same time. That means you and me can access the data at the same time. DBMS being a basic model, it used to support only a single user. So this is about DBMS and RDBMS. So people, now we have understood what is DBMS and what is RDBMS. So now we'll try to tabulate the differences between DBMS and RDBMS. So people, coming to the differences, DBMS stands for Database Management System, whereas RDBMS stands for Relational Database Management System. DBMS, it is a basic model which is developed to define a database, whereas RDBMS, it is an advanced version of a database. DBMS, being a basic model, we can store only a small amount of data. In RDBMS, this RDBMS, it is the advanced version. As it is the advanced version, we can store a large amount of data. As I have mentioned, DBMS, it supports only a single user, whereas RDBMS, it supports multiple users. In DBMS, normalization is not possible, whereas in RDBMS, normalization is possible. So guys, normalization means it is a process of arranging data in the tables, but you have not seen any data in the tables, no? So at this point of time, if I have given some information about normalization means you can't understand. So we'll discuss in the upcoming classes what is normalization. So at this point of time, you please do remember that In DBMS, normalization is not possible, but whereas in RDBMS, normalization is possible. In DBMS, data redundancy is common. In RDBMS, data redundancy can be reduced with the help of keys and indexes. So now let me say you, what is data redundancy? Data redundancy means nothing but guys, duplicate data. So what is duplicate data? So let me say you, I have a table of information. In that table of information, I have students who are getting trained with me, and in that I have a trainer name also. So in that the trainer name should be present in Priyanka. So but instead of presenting it only at single place, it is being present at a multiple places. As it is being present at a multiple places, we call this as a duplicate data. That duplicate data is called as a redundant data. That redundant data is most common in DBMS. But whereas in RDBMS, data redundancy can be reduced. So guys, DBMS, it is a basic model. It gives only a low level of security. The security features are very compromised. But RDBMS being a high level model, it has a high security features. We can log the database also. And coming to software and hardware requirements, DBMS being supporting only basic features, the software and hardware requirements are very low. RDBMS being an advanced model, the software and hardware requirements are also high. And what are the examples of a DBMS? The examples of a DBMS are The examples of DBMS are XML and a Microsoft Access. And the examples of RDBMS are Oracle, MySQL, SQL, Postgres, etc. So this is about DBMS and RDBMS. So people, are you clear? Guys, are you clear? Judith, are you following? Sushma, are you getting?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. So now we'll understand. Yeah. So people now will understand what are the sublanguages of SQL. SQL commands are mainly categorized into 5 types. They are DDL, DML, DRL, TCL, and a DCL. See here, DDL stands for Data Definition Language, and the different commands that are falling under the category of DDL are create, drop, alter, truncate, and rename. So these are the different commands that are falling into the category of DDL. And then next we have a DML. DML stands for data manipulation language. And the different commands that are falling into the category of DML are insert, update, and delete. And then next we have DRL. DRL stands for data retrieval language. And the different commands that are falling into the category of DRL are select. So people in the upcoming classes will be dealing with working example of each of this command. We'll see how it is created, how a table can be dropped, everything working while we'll be seeing. At this point of time, we'll understand just what are the commands that are following. Yeah, so the next sublanguage of SQL we have is TCL. TCL stands for Transaction Control Language. And the different commands that are falling into the category of TCL are commit, rollback, and a save point. And then next we have DCL. DCL stands for Data Control Language. And the different commands that are falling into the category of DCL are grant and revoke. So this is about sublanguages of SQL. Now we'll understand what are the different operators present in Oracle. So the types of operators are categorized into following. They are SQL arithmetic operators, SQL comparison operators, SQL logical operators, and SQL compound operators. We'll discuss each of the operator in detail. In today's session, we'll be learning about SQL arithmetic operators. So guys, what are the different arithmetic operators we have? The different arithmetic operators we have are add, subtract, multiply, divide, and module. So this is all about arithmetic operators. So now let me move to the database where we'll be writing our queries in our regular classes. So people do not worry about the installation. We'll be having a live installation session for this. So now let me help you to write a basic query. So people, before going for the arithmetic operators, let me help you out to write a simple query. So guys, in our ETL testing, we'll be dealing always here with a data retrieval queries. Data retrieval queries means queries that are starting with a select keyword. So here as a ETL tester, we'll be writing all the time queries that starts with a select keyword. So here also I'm writing my query starting with a select keyword. After select keyword, guys, if I wanted to retrieve a particular columns from a table, I need to mention those column names. But consider my table has 12 to 13 columns. I wanted to retrieve all those columns. So if you wanted to retrieve all the column names, instead of mentioning all the column names, you can mention simply star. After mentioning star, we'll mention from clause. After from clause, we'll mention a table name from which I wish to retrieve a data. The table name from which I wish to retrieve a data is employees. I have mentioned the same, and after this, I have terminated the query with. So I'm done with writing the query, guys. So guys, after we are done with writing the query, we need to terminate the query. So people, in a simple English, we'll be terminating our query with a semicolon, with a full stop. So in our SQL, the termination factor we use is semicolon. So I'm mentioning the same semicolon. After I have mentioned the semicolon, so guys, now I'm done with writing a query. The next step I need to follow is I need to run the query. How to run the query? We'll be selecting whatever we have written and we'll be hitting a green color play button, which is present on the top of the worksheet. Hitting this button, I have got what is a data that is present on the output screen. So my output screen is present exactly below the worksheet. In that people, if you observe, we have got a data for a employees table. So this is about how to retrieve a data. So what is a meaning of data retrieval? So guys, yes, let me say you, in this database, we have our data in the form of tables. See here, data it is present in a tables. Whatever a data that is present in a tables, I wanted to bring it to the output screen. So the process of bringing a data that is present in a table to our output screen, we call that process as a data retrieval. So this is about how to write a simple data retrieval query. Now, similarly, I wanted to retrieve a data from a table called departments. So for that, how do I write my query? I write my query starting with a select keyword. After select keyword, guys, now I wanted to retrieve all the columns from the departments table. As I wanted to retrieve all the columns, I have mentioned star. After mentioning star, I have mentioned from clause. After from clause, I have mentioned what is the table name from which I wanted to retrieve the data. The table name from which I wanted to retrieve the data is departments. I have mentioned the same and I have terminated the query with a semicolon. So now let me run the query, guys. What happens if I run this particular query? If I run this particular query here, whatever the data that is present for the departments table will be retrieved to us on the output window. You can see, guys, whatever a data that is present in the departments table has been retrieved to us in the output window. Yeah, this process we call it as an data retrieval thing. So guys, this is about how do we write a simple data retrieval query. So people, are you clear about how to write a simple DRL query? Guys, are you clear or you are having doubt at any point? If you are having doubt, means please raise your hands. I'll be repeating the topic once again. This is a basic query we'll be writing. Depending upon this only, we'll be writing future queries. Santosh, clear? Yeah, okay, Santosh. Yeah. So people, if at all you do not have a situation to talk or your mic is not working properly, please drop a message in the chat box whether you are clear or you are having a doubt. So now we'll be discussing arithmetic operators. So the next thing we will be discussing is arithmetic operators. So what are the different arithmetic operators we have? The different arithmetic operators we have are add, subtract, multiply, divide, and modulo. So these are the different arithmetic operators we have. Now we'll go for writing of query for each of the arithmetic operator. So guys, whatever the operation we are performing, we'll be writing our query always starting with a select keyword. Here also I'm writing my query starting with a select keyword. After select keyword, guys, now I wanted to perform addition between 10 and 5. So how do I write that? I'll be writing that like 10 plus 5. After mentioning this, I am mentioning from clause. After we have mentioned what is the operation we wanted to perform, I have mentioned from clause. After mentioning from clause, we need to mention the table name from which I wanted to retrieve a data. So people, this 10 plus 5 performing addition is a general operation that is not related to any of a table. If you wanted to perform any of a general operation, you can use a table name as a dual. To perform any general operation, developers has given us a very beautiful opportunity of this dual table. So whenever you are in a need to perform general operation, you can use this dual table. This has been developed by a developers at the time of developing the software only. So now I'm terminating my query with a semicolon. So guys, now let me run the query. What happens if I run this particular query? If I run this particular query, I'll be getting addition of 10 plus 5. If I perform addition between 10 and 5, I would be getting 15. So the addition of 10 plus 5 is 15. Running this particular query, I have got the same in the output window. 10 plus 5 is 15. Now we'll go for the next query. For the next query, I have written my query starting with a select keyword. After select keyword, guys, now I wanted to perform addition between 343 and 256. So I'm writing 343 plus 256. After mentioning this, I have closed the parenthesis. After closing the parenthesis, mentioned from clause. After mentioning from clause, I have mentioned a table name as a dual. After mentioning table name as a dual, I have terminated the query with a semicolon. So now let me run the query, guys. What happens if I run this particular query? If I run this particular query here, the addition of 343 plus 256 would give us 599. So running this particular query, I have got the same thing in the output. So people, this is all about the arithmetic addition operator. The next operator we have is subtract operator. So now we'll go for writing of queries for that. So how do we write our query? So people, whether it is a addition operator or a division operator or any other operation you wanted to perform, you will be writing your query always starting with a select keyword. So here also I have written my query starting with a select keyword. After select keyword, guys, now I wanted to perform subtraction between 10 and 5. So for that, I would be writing 10 minus 5. After mentioning this, I have closed the parenthesis. After mentioning that, I have mentioned from class given table name as a dual. After giving a table name as a dual, I'm terminating the query with a semicolon. So guys, now let me run the query. What happens if I run this particular query? If I run this particular query, I would be getting output below the worksheet. In that you can see this. If we subtract 5 from 10, we would be getting 5. So the same 5 has been visible to us in the output. Now we'll go for the next query. where I wanted to perform subtraction between 343 and 256. For that, I have written my query starting with a select keyword. After select keyword, guys, now I wanted to perform subtraction between 353, 343 and 256. So I have mentioned 343 minus 256. After mentioning this, I have mentioned from clause. After mentioning from clause, I have given table name as a dual. After giving table name as a dual, I have terminated the query with a semicolon. So guys, now let me run the query. What happens if I run this particular query? If I run this particular query, the subtraction of, if we subtract 256 from 343, we would be getting 87. So the same 87 has been displayed to us in the output. You can see guys, this is a output. So this is about the subtraction operator. Next, we have a multiplication operator. So guys, in between the symbol changes, apart from that, everything would be same. So next, I'm writing my query starting with a select keyword. After that, I wanted to perform multiplication between 10 and 5. So I have written 10 into 5. After mentioning 10 into 5, I have mentioned from class, given table name as a dual, and then I have terminated the query with a semicolon. So now let me run the query, guys. What happens if I run this query? If I run this query, I would be getting, if I perform subtract multiplication between 10 and 5, I would be getting 50. So the same 50 has been retrieved to us in the output. Now we'll go for the next query. For the next query, I have written my query starting with a select keyword. After select keyword, guys, now I wanted to perform multiplication between 343 and 256. So I'm mentioning simply 343 into 256. After mentioning this, I have mentioned from clause. After mentioning from clause, I have given table name as a dual, and then I have terminated the query with a semicolon. So guys, now let me run the query. What happens if I run this particular query? If I run this particular query, I have got my output exactly below the worksheet. In that, people, if you have observed, the multiplication result of 343 and 256 is 87,808. So the same thing has been retrieved to us in the output. So this is about a multiplication operator. The next thing we have is division operator. So for that, how do we write our query, guys? We'll be writing our query starting with a select keyword. After that, I wanted to divide 10 by 5. So I have mentioned 10 divided by 5. After mentioning this, I have closed the parenthesis, mentioned from class, given table name as a dual, and then I have terminated the query with a semicolon. So now let me run the query. What happens if I run this particular query? If I run this particular query, I would be getting the output. When 10 is divided by 5, what is the output we are getting? The output we are getting is 2. So the same thing has been retrieved to us in the output. Now we'll go for the next query where I wanted to divide 343 by 256. So for that, I'm writing my query starting with a select keyword. After that, I have mentioned 343 divided by 256. After mentioning this, I have closed the parenthesis, mentioned from class, given table name as a dual, and then I have terminated the query with a semicolon. So now let me run the query, guys. What happens if I run this particular query? If I run this particular query, I have got the output. If 343 is divided by 256, it would be giving us a output of 1.339. So the same output has been retrieved to us in the output. So people, if you remember, when consider this as a number A and this as a number B. When A is divided by B, apart from getting this quotient, we'll be getting one more thing called as remainder also. So how to get that remainder? To get that remainder, we have a operator called mod. So the syntax for mod is mod of A comma B. So for that, how do we write our query? Let me show you guys. So here I'm writing my query starting with a select keyword. After that, I have mentioned mod. After that, I have opened the parenthesis. In the place of A, I have mentioned 10, comma. In the place of B, I have mentioned 5. After mentioning both the numbers, I have mentioned from class, given table name as a dual, and then I have terminated the query with a semicolon. So guys, now let me run the query. What happens if I run this particular query? If I run this particular query, I would be getting the reminder. When 10 is divided by 5, what is the output? It is, what is the reminder? It is yielding. It is yielding a reminder of 0. So the same 0 has been retrieved to us in the output. So now next we'll see what is a reminder we'll be getting when 343 is divided by 256. For that, I'm writing my query starting with a select keyword. So after that, what is a keyword for getting a reminder? That is mod of A comma B. So in the place of A, I'm mentioning 343, comma in the place of B, I'm mentioning 256. After mentioning both the things, I have closed the parenthesis, mention from clause. After mentioning from clause, given table name as a dual, and then I have terminated the query with a semicolon. So guys, now let me run the query. What happens if I run this particular query? If I run this particular query, I would be getting reminder. When 343 is divided by 256, what is a reminder? It is yielding. It is yielding a reminder of 87. So the same 87 has been yielded to us in the output. So people, this is all about the arithmetic operators. So people, are you clear? Sushma, are you clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.